Hi everyone, welcome back to Los Angeles. I'm senior producer Eric Kyron Davis here with your monthly studio update. We've grown to 74 total employees across several disciplines with one thing in common, making Star Citizen and Squadron 42 the best games possible. Now, some of those new hires include talented engineers, which bring our engineering team to about 12. All their vast and varying experience is quickly helping to bring more features to life across both games. Soon, all of our new ships will have a heat and power component, now that the team has finished designing pipes and begun implementing their basic structure. This will manage the flow of respective elements to allow individual component contribution to ship behavior. So, for example, coolers now contribute to how much heat the system can handle rather than being statically defined by the heatsink. Anyway, we're currently replacing the old system in the new ships with this new management system. After this is done, the team must implement the minute details of each component influencing one another. For example, coolers not only affect the overheat temperature limit, they also offer IR signature masking. Heat sinks will no longer simply define the temperature at which components overheat and shut down. The heat will ramp up to its desired temperature rather than being generated instantaneously. Now, we've talked about shops in our last update, and now the purchase transaction system has been re-implemented with our new replicated function system called remote methods. This system will decrease the amount of calls to the server, which in turn should make purchasing things a bit more responsive. Next, we'll be working on improving the try-on mode and the client-side update to your persistent data after purchases. Since the previous update about the ultimate light switch, the light group entity also has several new features. Its light state can also be changed by track view, which is very useful for cinematics. It allows for individual directional lights to now rotate with a simple property. The process was, previously required flow graph. The light groups can now replace the antiquated prefabs that vehicle external lights have been using. And now next, the team aims to get the light groups on a vehicle to rely on the vehicle's power in order to control all lights as well as interior devices such as doors. And lastly, on the engineering team, we've been hard at work on what we call the control manager. This system will automatically give authority over items across the game and will allow players to dictate the control of an item and its sub-items. Now, in the past, we've had a system prototype for vehicles that was hard-coded, which meant that item connections would have to be manually defined by the designer. For instance, a particular seat always controlled a specific set of items, but now the control manager will be able to connect to any entity. For example, a designer would add a control manager to a turret, and then weapons are added. The turret that can then be controlled by either an AI module or by an operator seat, the player. This can also be added to the vehicle with either an AI module or, again, the operator seat. The framework we've set up is universal, so it can be used anywhere on anything. And this isn't restricted to weapon systems. If a player wants to control doors on a space station and terminals with an operator seat, it will link you and you can operate whatever it controls. Now, the really exciting thing about the control manager is it will allow for multi-crew play, depending on which seat you're sitting in. On our test ship, the person in the operator seat controls the weapons, but can switch them to the AI control and then reclaim control again. We've now completed adding this to DataForge, so designers no longer have to manually state what each controller does. The system now knows what each control operates, so with a set priority, it would manage itself. However, if the designer still wants to get that extra level of control or just let the system function as it wants to, they can do so. Now, over on our ship team here in Los Angeles, they've completed the white box phase of the Anvil Terrapin and moved into the gray box phase, which includes the final geo on the pilot seat, the cockpit, the main engines, landing gear, and housing. Meanwhile, the white box is already up and flying for our initial tests. We've also done some basic rigs and animation on the landing gear and on the landing gear housing. The team is making steady progress on the RSI Aurora as well. We're working on cockpit controls, MFD screens, and the sleeping quarters. They've also been through general polish, such as palms, decals, and LODs. It's starting to look like much more than the modern-day descendant of the X-7 spacecraft and is heading to the landing pad at maximum thrust. Now, our QA team has been quite busy. They've been testing our new ships in the pipeline and started working on our new animation pipeline. Also, one of the biggest projects they're undertaking is testing the new planetary tech on Moon, such as Daymar. The team has had so much fun testing this new tech that they really don't want to go home. We're really looking forward to getting this to you as soon as we can in the upcoming 3.0 release. Our tech content team has been very busy supporting, building, improving, and assessing all of our processes and pipelines to increase performance, reduce dev time, and help deliver every aspect of Star Citizen and Squadron 42. For instance, with multiple asset pipelines, one of our biggest challenges is maintaining consistency across every asset. This means that the tech art team is constantly evaluating and auditing our materials to achieve the best and most efficient result. To ensure such consistency, all the asset dev teams really need to create and maintain a shared use of a single unified library. Maintaining such a library for a universe full of assets requires vigilance and maintenance. Our most recently completed audit included sound tutorials and clear documentation for all of our best practices. Also, animation is a lot like any other asset. It has a certain memory footprint that needs to be streamed in and out of the game. Think of an animation database like an object container, but for animations. The DBA, or Database of Animations, is an optimized animation container comprised of hundreds of animations compressed down to a fraction of their typical size on the disk. Splitting them up logically is important because the speed of streaming will be affected depending on the size of said DBA. For example, a locomotion set can be fairly heavy as it's comprised of hundreds of animations from walking, running, turning, idling, everything in between, causing streaming of a large file to take a few frames. Perhaps you've noticed your character sliding prior to the animation beginning, which is a product of a DBA that's just too large. So Tech Animation developed a tool to create, manage, and sort these animations within that DBA. Our goal is to ensure that while you're streaming seamlessly through the Star Citizen universe, your animations will be streaming right along with you. Another boon on performance are asset errors. These can be quite difficult to identify when the only way to find them is parsing through a 200 megabyte text log line by line. So this month, Engineering, Tech Art, and DevOps teamed up to automatically output and track errors and warnings associated with certain assets for easy assignment, better visibility, and quicker turnaround in everything from needed fixes to undefined behaviors that could negatively impact the overall gameplay experience. With the implementation of Item 2.0, characters within Star Citizen will become fundamentally different than the characters in our base engine. So, to manage them, we needed to create a specific loadout editor tool. And now that that editor tool has been used in production, we've made some major improvements that allow for more developers to get up to speed quickly on the usage of this tool. With new icons, documentation, and general workflow improvements, we are now expect the loadouts to be easier and faster to create. Now, our new skinning tool also handles more complex rigs, setups, and LODs. It takes our CGA format, which is a hierarchy of animated meshes, collisions, and constrained pistons, to become a unified set of skins with LODs that are bound to an animated skeleton with physics. This tool also reduces our turnaround for skinning complex setups and improves the overall process. Now, a critical feature required for our characters is that the weapons move to their designated positions accurately when players switch armor. Tech Art worked within the confines of the skeleton extension system to develop an override technique to utilize the correct helper position based on each asset. This means attachments will now inherit positions in real time as you attach and detach armor pieces. You don't want your gun hanging off the wrong part of your armor. Not only would it look silly, but it can slow you down when switching weapons after you run out of ammo on your trusty sidearm. And also in terms of attachments, the most complex character we've set up to date is the Heavy Marine. A fully equipped Heavy Marine has the most physical attachments or weapons than any of our other characters. This presented, some pretty unique challenges, trying to fit 4 grenades, 8 magazines, 2 med pens, 2 gadgets, 1 sidearm, and 2 weapons onto a single character makes for quite the game of Tetris. The Heavy Marine has now been completed and is ready to hit the battlefield fully equipped. Now the character team is making solid progress across handfuls of different outfits, uniforms, and aliens. Opposite of the Heavy Marine is our Heavy Outlaw, which has completed its in-game mesh and will move right on into texturing, rigging, and implementation. So it's not going to be too long before the Heavy Marine will have its potential match out there in the verse. Now in Squadron 42, we're cranking through various characters from major and from the minor background roles. And this one has now passed to the high poly stage and moved right on into in-game modeling and texturing. The OMC Undersuit has completed its high poly pass, making it ready for in-game mesh and for texturing. The Marine BDU has moved through texturing and onto its final stages. We have a medical rep who has finished up her high poly phase and soon will be in-game modeling. Last but not least, concepts for the Xi'an and Banu are wrapping up, and our newest quest givers, Rudo and Miles Eckhart, are getting ready to meet you in the verse in the very near future. Well, that's it for us here in Los Angeles. Thank you, as always, for your support, and we'll see you again soon.